Hello, I'm DerTebbers, and this is your simulator review of Construction Simulator 2015 by Weltenbauer Software and published by Astragon Software. Have you ever wanted to build your own construction company? Do you want to get the feel of operating a crane and a cement mixer and a pumper truck and a front loader and a digger and a crane and a... Do you want to change the actual scenery and architecture in a game that you're playing? This could be the game for you. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that this is going to be a longer than normal review because I have a lot more to say about Construction Simulator 2015 than I do about games like Roadside Assistance Simulator. The graphics are... Now, first understanding that Construction Simulator started out as a mobile game, and then tablet-based game or something of that function, and then was brought into the computer. It's not a direct port. 2014 was on the mobile, 2015 is on the computer. The graphics are not that great. They're not crisp. I have the graphics cranked as high as they'll go, and it still feels circa early mid-2000s, maybe a little bit later than that. Trees will pop into focus as you approach them. Vehicles look very dated. I would almost say Grand Theft Auto 3 dated, but I think Grand Theft Auto 3 vehicles had a little bit better graphical quality in some contexts. But that's for the AI cars. The actual trucks themselves actually are pretty good. It's not terrible, but I'm also not going to say it's great. It's certainly not in the league of Euro Truck Simulator 2, which I think we can all agree is pretty much the peak and pinnacle of the simulator gaming industry right now. Performance is... I don't even know what to say about performance. I mean, let's start with sound. It sounds like sound. It sounds like construction machines. When you dig, you hear the sound of the digging. You hear the sound of the crane. The people on my Twitch stream have called it the sound of a crying puppy. You hear the brakes squeal when you hit the brakes. Again, my Twitch stream has told me I need to actually do maintenance on my vehicles, which you can't do, by the way. But now let's talk about the actual game's running performance. Well, that depends. Some days it's good and you have fine. Everything runs great. And sometimes you have this. That is 3 frames per second. Yeah, that's it. 3 frames per second. After you've played for a while, it seems that the game in certain situations gets slowly and slowly worse to the point where you end up with this. Now it gets worse because there's also glitches in here that increase the performance issues. Here's my truck flying through the space. The reason why, I don't remember, but I think I touched something that was vibrating on the ground at 3 frames per second, and I went into space. Great. And when you land in the water, by the way, it's not really all the way water. It's just water texture over grass. So you actually drive underwater. You can drive perfectly fine underwater. There's no harm, no foul there. And when I got back to the construction site, I got to see this. And then I reset it. Yeah. There's a few bugs in this game. And this directly affects performance. I found that when the game was trying to figure out what to do with that truck when it was stuck in the building, that degraded performance. I also found additionally that the faster you drive and the more in-city you are, the quicker your performance will degrade over time. I find about 2 hours is about the most I can get before I start to see performance degradation, unless some other factors are at play. The gameplay. You like that transition? Yeah, play, gameplay? I do. All right, so what is a factor at play? Well, one of the biggest factors, and this was something that we talked about a little bit on a Twitch stream. In order to have your workers do anything, you actually have to micromanage them through each step. You can't just tell your foreman, you do this job with your worker, go. You have, after each step hits, you then have to come in and say, okay, now you do this next step. Every time it hits, the game suffers a huge lag spike while it's doing it. Over time, that leg spike adds up and causes larger degradation across the game. I found that if I'm playing multiplayer actually works very well, me and Brew for instance, because you can't use your hired workers during multiplayer, the game lasts longer before it starts to suffer that degradation. And additionally, I tested after playing with Brew that I could last much longer by not using my hired help to do any tasks whatsoever most of the time, though sometimes that's not true. And the reason for the 3 frames per second versus the usual 20 frames per second is completely arbitrary and unknown. What about the deeper gameplay? Well, it's actually pretty fun. It becomes almost an addiction. I think me and Brew have talked about this a few times. You're building this empire and you get to do all these tasks. When you think about other games like, Euro Truck, you get to drive a truck. Well, in this game, you can drive a truck too. It's a man low loader truck, and you can deliver heavy equipment. You can deliver wall panels. You can deliver steel items as your build needs. So you can have a little bit of Euro Truck. Then you want to dig. Well, you can have a little bit of Dig It because you can dig with your excavators. You can have a little bit of Farm Sim, sort of, in using some of the other equipment. And then the cranes, and honestly, the interior view of any one of these pieces of equipment is pretty darn good. The mirrors work when you're driving the trucks. There's one mirror that doesn't work on one of the excavators. I think it's a small excavator, doesn't have one of the mirrors in one of the modes doesn't work. But that's a relatively minor thing. Overall, I really want to like this game, but it's so buggy. Here's me and Brew, for instance, watching cars ramp off of a trailer. They got stuck in the ground. Brew has problems because his controls reset constantly. I use exclusively the keyboard, but people that use the Xbox controller and maybe have another controller plugged in as well, which I sometimes do, they have problems where the game doesn't save their control settings. The developer has acknowledged this. The developer says they're working on trying to figure out what's going on and fix it, but the bugs are there. Finishing some jobs will send your truck flying through the air because the truck gets stuck in between a couple of areas. It's happened to me a few times where I just go flipping through the air. Driving is an absolute nightmare. The AI cars have no concept of avoidance or brakes, so if you go through a light, you may get broadsided, and when you get broadsided, you'll end up flying, or you'll ramp off the front of a van. It's things like that that really kind of break the game. Euro Truck has a little bit of the wonky physics when you run into things, but it's not this bad. And this is almost as bad as Farm Sim 13. And really what they need is more of, well, honestly, Euro Truck style physics. The next level of the game really is if you had some punishments. At this point, if you speed, if you ram a car, if you flip your truck, if you drive in the water, it doesn't matter. There's no punishment to you doing this. And to some degree, I can understand that. But at the same time, you're going to make mistakes. It can happen. So damage my trucks. Make me have to repair them. Right now, I'm sitting on, I think I have $6, $7, $8 million in game. And I have nothing more to spend it on. I could buy some more trucks, but there's only a certain point there's a point at which you're like, oh, well, I have enough trucks now. So there really needs to be something more there. And I think punishments would be good. But before they do that, they have to fix the physics. They have to fix the car AI because they're horrible too. I can't tell you how many times I've been cut off by a car and pinned against something or flipped through the air or what have you. Overall, I really, really, really do think this has a potential to be a good game. But when I say it's a good game now, I would say it's a passable game right now. I would say don't spend $30 on it. That is the retail price. Don't spend $30 on it unless you really want to simulate construction work. Instead, wait until it's on sale. You'll be less angry when the pallets freak out and randomly walk across the back of your truck. You'll be less ticked off when the pallets just don't behave and you end up stuck somewhere. You'll be less ticked off if you go flying through the air if you've paid less than the $30 asking price for the game. That being said, if you watch their Steam store page and they've been patching stuff more, the last patch as of this record was the 18 December 2014. We are midway through January. There hasn't been a patch yet. If they're patching more, and if they get the Steam Workshop working more, because as of right now there's 4 things in the Steam Workshop, the game might be worth more to you. Currently though, look for it to go on deep discount. Look for it in Bundle Stars, on Humble Bundle, something like that. Get it on offer. Don't pay full price for it. Not right now. I really want to like this game, but the number of bugs is just too high. The graphical problems are just too high, and the performance issues are just too much. Despite all that, though, it is a hilariously fun game. To do a multiplayer game is easy. It's fun. A lot of laughs, especially when you have issues like ramping cars. If you like construction, if you can deal with the bugs, I would say Construction Simulator 2015 is worth looking at, worth watching. If it's on offer, grab it. If you can stand it, the bugs as it stands today, $30 might be worth it to you. I've been DerTebbers. This has been your simulator review of Construction Simulator 2015 by Weltbauer Software and Astragon Software. Till next time, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go help Brew. He has managed to flip another truck.